corals, and cleanup crews. Let's start with coral basics. Corals are animals, they're not plants. They're sessile invertebrates. Sessile just means they stay in one place. They live in compact colonies of genetically identical polyps around a single mouth. Some corals can catch plankton and small fish using stinging tentacles, but most rely on the symbiotic relationship with zooxanthellae, which use photosynthesis to provide the corals with food. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of species of corals, and they have an indefinite lifespan, meaning we don't really know how long they can live. They come from the phylum Cnidaria, which is the same phylum of jellyfish and anemones, meaning that they have stinging tentacles they can use to catch their prey. There are two families of corals. You have your hard corals or stony corals and your soft corals. Really, the big difference is your hard corals form a calcium carbonate skeleton, which basically makes up the reef. Your soft corals do not. Within the hard or stony corals, hobbyists often talk about large polyp stony and small polyp stony corals. Ideal water parameters for corals, the number one most important thing is stability. Any big swings that happen suddenly can be hugely detrimental to the health of your coral. Specific gravity 1.023 to 1.026, temperature around 78 degrees, pH 8 to 8.3, calcium 4 to 450, alkalinity DKH 7.5 to 12, magnesium somewhere around 1300. Characteristics of a beginner coral. Number one, it's hardy. It's able to withstand slight changes in water parameters. That is typical in a beginner tank. Number two is that it's common. A good beginner coral should be easy to find. Number three is easy to feed. There are non-photosynthetic corals out there, but beginners should not get them. Only buy photosynthetic corals because they will get most of their nutrition from the symbiotic zooxanthellae in the tissues. Number four, buy a peaceful species. There are several species of corals that will shoot out long, aggressive sweeper tentacles, especially at night, and sting other corals around it. The fifth characteristic of a beginner coral is something that ships well and acclimates well. The sixth characteristic is something that grows quickly, but this is a double-edged sword because there are certain corals like green star polyps and zanias that can grow so fast that they can even become a nuisance. But generally speaking, a coral that grows quicker, you'll probably have a little bit more success with to start with. The seventh and final characteristic of a beginner coral is a coral that is not prone to disease or pests. How to choose a healthy coral? The first thing is quarantine procedures. If you're buying online, you don't really have a choice. If you're buying from somewhere like Live Aquaria or Worldwide Coral, you just have to trust that the company is doing it. Choosing healthy coral. Number two, buy the coral from your local fish store and ask them if they can hold it for a couple weeks. Not all fish stores will do it, but the good ones will, and that way you can come back in 2 weeks. If it's still doing well, you probably got a decent coral. Number 3 is buying aquacultured whenever possible. There aren't a ton of aquacultured products out there right now, but if you can find an aquacultured coral, you're not pulling anything from the ocean. My 4th tip for choosing a healthy coral is to check for signs of stress, disease, and pests. Things like bleaching, a gaping mouth, having the tentacles completely in, not extended at all. If you notice vermitid scales, aptasia, bristleworms, these are all signs that it might not be the best coral to get.
You told me I'm your anchor, I told you you're my pole. Through the wind and fire we try to hold on. We build this ship together, searching for a home. Despite the storm that hit us, we're still on board. Dancing in the moonlight, the world just stopped and stares. We got no destination, I'll take you anywhere.
Tip number 1 when it comes to caring for your coral is drip acclimation and light acclimation. Just like with fish in the previous episode, you gotta drip acclimate, probably takes about an hour. Corals are really sensitive when it comes to light intensity, but corals do much better with too little light than too much light. So what you do is before adding your corals in, you turn the intensity of your lights down. And then over the span of 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to increase the percentage 2-3% a day until I get back to my desired intensity. Number 2 is coral dips. There's a few products I like to use called Coral RX. Another product is Two Little Fishies Revive. You want to dip your corals for about 5 minutes, blasting them with some sort of turkey baster to remove a bunch of pests that are hiding inside and on your corals. Tip number 3 is quarantining your corals. Not only can your corals be carrying fish disease, not that they're infected with fish disease, but if they even have a drop of infected water inside of them, they can infect your entire tank. If you quarantine, you can not only catch things, but you can clean them, you can re-dip them, you can scrape things off. Caring for your coral, tip number 4 is placement. There are 5 things to consider in placement. The first is par and lighting. Whether you place your coral high up or you place it low down, there's going to be various intensities of light. The second thing about placement is flow. Some corals love high flow, especially small polyp stony corals, but some corals can't handle too much flow. Third thing to consider about with placement is the aggressivity. Those sweeper tentacles can come out and sting the corals around them. The fourth placement consideration is the rate of growth. For example, if you buy green star polyps, which are some of the hardiest and easiest to keep corals, I like to put them on their own island rock because they can grow so fast that they can overtake everything. And the fifth consideration when caring for your corals is feeding. Most photosynthetic corals will get the majority of the food they need from the symbiotic zooxanthellae that live in their polyps and in their body. But all corals can do with supplemental feeding, and some absolutely require supplemental feeding. So there are 2 methods of feeding. One is called broadcast feeding, where you just pour the food into the tank and you let the currents take it around. The other is called target feeding, where you actually pick up the food and deliver it directly to the coral. Some of the coral foods I like, Coral Frenzy, there we go, look at that. It's probably the most popular one out there, is called Reef Roids. It's from Polyp Labs, very, very similar. How often do I feed my corals? I like to target feed them or broadcast feed once or twice a week.
All the doors we've opened and all the books we've closed, words just come together, story that we never told. So far you're saying for my own, you said just keep holding on.
My top 10 beginner corals. Rather than go through everything in depth, I'm just gonna give you a super brief introduction, and all you need to do instead, go to my website, all right? Click right here on beginner guides, then click on beginner guide to coral, and you can even scroll to my top 10 beginner corals, and here they all are. Beginner coral number 1, green star polyps. These are super easy to frag. Just put a little piece of super glue on a piece of rock and they'll grow quickly. Beginner coral number 2 are scolies, scholemias. These are large polyp stony corals, great for the bottom of the tank, medium flow, supplemental feeding 1 to 2 times a week. Beginner coral number 3 are brain corals, also called favias. Large polyp stony corals, medium flow, medium light. They can have long, aggressive sweeper tentacles, so make sure you give them enough space from other corals. Beginner coral number 4 are toadstools or leather corals. These are soft corals, medium light, medium flow. Number 5 are pretty much all of the euphyllias, especially the frog spawn and the hammer. Just make sure you get the branching type and not the wall type, because the branching is much more hardy. Medium light, medium flow, supplemental feedings, just like the rest. Beginner coral number 6 is the elegance coral, a little bit more difficult to keep than some others on the list. Put it down in the sandy substrate, medium light, medium flow. It can double its size during the day, so just make sure you give it enough space. Number 7 are Duncan corals, very similar to our last coral. You can mount these on the rock. They're large polyp stony corals. They're gorgeous. You can often find them aquacultured, medium light, medium flow. I think you get the idea. Pretty much everything's medium light, medium flow on the beginner list. Number 8 on the list is my second favorite coral, acans. I didn't mention it, but my first favorite are euphyllia, especially frog spawn and hammer corals. Acans are fantastic. They can grow quite quickly, medium light, medium flow. Number 9 on the list are a lot of people's favorite, zoas. A word of caution with zoas, they can have a palytoxin, which can be very dangerous to human beings. So just do your research before buying them and handle them with care. Are you gonna focus on me? We're not gonna focus. Zoas really have a cult following, and sometimes single polyps can sell for hundreds of dollars. Personally, I don't get it, but people go crazy for zoas. Slightly more light, slightly more flow necessary. And coming in at number 10 on the list are blastomusas, also known as blastos. Peaceful in nature, this LPS coral likes lower flow, moderate lighting, and if you haven't figured it out yet, will benefit from weekly supplemental feedings. So what are my recommended coral products? First up is coral food. And again, you can buy almost all the stuff at Marine Depot. First up, Coral Frenzy. Then you got Polyp Lab, Reefroids, Felice Reef Coral Food, and also V2O New Visions Mini. Number 2 are coral feeders for target feeding. There's 2 of them I use. Why do I have 2? I don't know, I just do. The first is this Kent Sea Squirt, and the second one is the smaller one from V2O Foods. My third category of recommended products, acclimation tools. For coral dips, I got the Revive Coral Cleaner, Coral RX. Think your coral might have a bacterial infection, you can use this Blue Life antibacterial Coral RX as well. Of course, we got the innovative Marine AccuDrip, the OXO brush set, and the stainless steel turkey baster. My 5th category of recommended products are test kits, and there are 2 brands that I really like. The first I've used for over 5 years, Red Sea Reef Foundation Pro Test Kit. But if you want a little bit more expensive, but a lot more accurate, I recommend the Hanna calorimeters. I recommend the Hanna calorimeters. I have 2 of them. This one here is the alkalinity, and this one here is the calcium. For 2-part dosing, I use Brightwell Reef Code A and B. I use about a capful every single day in my 24-gallon mixed reef tank. Cleanup crew basics. What is a cleanup crew? A cleanup crew is a collection of invertebrates to help you clean and remove algae and detritus from your tank. What does a cleanup crew clean? It cleans algae, waste, food, dead livestock, and leftover detritus. Where does it clean? It cleans your sand bed, the glass, and it cleans your live rocks. How to choose a cleanup crew. Number 1, it depends on the size of your aquarium. A good starting place is for a 20-gallon tank. I like to add 10 snails, 1 cleaner shrimp, and a couple of hermit crabs to start. How to choose a cleanup crew. Number 2, it depends on your bioload. Obviously, low bioload, you'll need less. A larger tank, larger bioload, you'll need more. Number 3 is whether or not you have a substrate. If you do have a substrate, it's probably a good idea to get some sort of sand sifting member, whether that's a sand sifting starfish, a sand sifting goby, or various snails that plow through the sand like Nacerius snails or Ceres snails. How to choose a cleanup crew. Number 4, well, what kind of nuisance algae are you dealing with? There's all sorts of different kinds of nuisance algae, from bubble algae to hair algae, and different members of a cleanup crew will help limit and eat that nuisance algae. And lastly, number 5 is, do you need a reef safe cleanup crew? Because there are many members of a cleanup crew that will eat or at least pester your corals to death. So just take note of that and make sure if you plan on having a reef tank that you only get reef safe cleanup crew members. When to add your cleanup crew. Number 1, just wait until you need it. If you add the cleanup crew too early, they will starve to death. The second thing is add slowly. Don't add 100 snails all at once, but add a few at a time. If they're not keeping up with the load, then you can add a few more. Caring for your cleanup crew, the exact same that we've already talked about. Number 1, drip acclimate. Number 2 is inspect and remove nuisance algae, snails, anything that doesn't belong. You can use those OXO brushes. Number 3 in caring for your cleanup crew is use a quarantine. Not only will you make sure that you don't add any diseases into your display tank, but you'll also have more time to remove unwanted hitchhikers, algae, and pests. And the 4th thing to consider when caring for your cleanup crew is feeding. If you add slowly and you add the correct amount, you likely won't ever have to feed the cleanup crew because they'll get the leftover detritus, fish food, waste, and algae that will just naturally occur. Our cleanup crew recommendations. Number 1 are snails, both algae eating snails and carnivorous detritivore. Some of my favorite algae eating snails are turbo snails, trochus snails, astrea snails, and nerite snails, with trochus probably being my favorite because they can flip themselves back over when they end up on their back. For carnivorous snails, these are super awesome because they keep the sand bed aerated, and my 2 favorite are Nacerius and Ceres snails. My cleanup crew recommendation number 2 for crabs, blue or red-legged hermit crab or an emerald crab, but just be careful with an emerald crab because some of them do nip at your corals. Number 3 are shrimp. I like the skunk cleaner shrimp and the blood red fire shrimp. I do not like peppermint shrimp. They have almost always attacked my corals. Number 4 cleanup crew recommendation, a conch or a conch, depending on the part of the country you're in. They're fun to watch and they keep your sand bed aerated and they're really good at eating algae. Number 5 is a sand sifting sea star. Just make sure you have a 2 to 3 inch deep sand bed so that the sifting sea star doesn't starve to death. Number 6 is a brittle star. There are some really aggressive brittle stars out there, so try to get a more docile one or else they can eat your small fish, but they're great detritivores. Number 7 is a tuxedo urchin. If you do get an urchin, they are bulldozers, so you want to make sure your aquascape is secured and not just stacked on top of each other. And the signs that we were close. Man, that was such a long day, but we're finally done. Coming up next week in episode 7, lighting, heating, and circulation. The links to everything down below, the beginner's guide, all the products at Marine Depot. With that, happy reefing everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.